Barbara Mandrell was once one of country music's most blazing stars, a powerhouse whose talent and charisma captivated millions through the 70s and 80s. From chart-topping hits to a primetime television show watched by tens of millions, she seemed utterly unstoppable. But behind all the glitz and glamour, a series of devastating events slowly dimmed her spotlight, and the woman who had it all made a choice that shocked the entire industry. So what really happened to Barbara Mandrell? And how does the woman who once ruled country music spend her days now, at 76 years old? Rise of a musical prodigy. Barbara Mandrell's story began long before her name was known across America. Born on Christmas Day in 1948, her early life was steeped in music from the very start. By the time she was 6 years old, she was already playing the accordion, and she would soon master the steel guitar and saxophone, instruments few youngsters even dream of tackling. Her father ran a music store, her mother played piano, and together they created an environment where musical greatness was not just possible, it was expected. She performed publicly at her family's church while still a small child, and by 11 years old she was sharing a stage in Las Vegas with country musician Joe Mathis, showcasing her steel guitar skills in a genre dominated almost entirely by men. Her maturity and natural confidence quickly earned her a regular spot on the California television program Town Hall Party, where she was surrounded by other talented female instrumentalists who helped fuel her ambition. Her summers were spent on the road touring with legends like Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline. Sharing hotel rooms with those seasoned artists at such a tender age gave Barbara an early and unvarnished look at the realities of the music business. By 14, she was a core member of the Mandrell family band, performing everything from Beatles covers to classic country staples across the country. In 1967, shortly after finishing high school, she married Ken Dudney, a Navy pilot who would become not just her husband but her lifelong anchor. After a brief pause to start a family, she returned to performing with renewed fire, and a Grand Ole Opry appearance helped reignite her drive. In 1969 she signed with Columbia Records, launching a solo career built on a distinctive sound that blended R&B, soul, and country in ways few artists had dared to attempt. Breaking into country music. The early 70s saw Barbara steadily build momentum, touring with icons and honing that rare genre-blending voice that resonated with audiences far beyond country radio. Her cover of Otis Redding's "I've Been Loving You Too Long" announced her arrival on the Billboard country charts, and her follow-up, "Playing Around with Love," broke into the top 20, proving this was no fluke. Her 1975 move to ABC Records, later absorbed into MCA, proved to be the turning point. Working with producer Tom Collins, she developed a pop-country crossover style that pushed her toward mainstream stardom. Songs like "Standing Room Only," "Married But Not to Each Other," and "Woman to Woman" climbed the charts in both the United States and Canada, with "Woman to Woman" crossing over onto the Billboard Hot 100, a significant achievement for a country artist in that era. But the late 70s belonged to Barbara completely. "Sleeping Single in a Double Bed" and "If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right" both hit #1 on the country charts while simultaneously drawing pop audiences. Her concerts became elaborate spectacles, multiple costume changes, live multi-instrumental performances, elaborate choreography, setting a new standard for what a female country entertainer could be. She wasn't just singing songs. She was rewriting the rulebook. Peak of fame and television stardom. Music success naturally pulled Barbara into television, and in 1980 NBC launched Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, a primetime variety show that would make her a household name far beyond country music's usual reach. The show blended live music, sketch comedy, and genuine family chemistry between Barbara, Louise, and Earlene. It drew an estimated 40 million viewers at its peak, a staggering number that underscored Barbara's extraordinary crossover appeal. Major entertainment figures lined up to appear on the program. Ray Charles, Glenn Campbell, Bob Hope. The show attracted legends from every corner of show business. Episodes frequently closed with a gospel medley that connected deeply with the sisters' southern roots, giving the program a warmth that purely musical shows often lacked. But the hidden cost of that success was brutal. Filming ran 14 to 16 hours a day, from before dawn until after midnight, week after week. The relentless schedule began damaging Barbara's voice, forcing her to rely on cortisone injections just to perform. When doctors warned her that continuing could cause permanent vocal damage, she made the agonizing decision to walk away after just 2 seasons. The show ended abruptly, but that decision may have saved her career and her health. She had earned a Golden Globe nomination for the show. She had made country music a primetime staple. And then, out of sheer necessity, she let it go. Personal life and family foundations. Behind the sequins and stage lights was a marriage that remained the steady center of Barbara's world. Ken Dudney had walked away from a promising career as a Navy pilot to support her rising stardom, and for decades he served as her anchor behind the scenes. Their family grew to include 3 children: Matthew, born in 1970, Jamie, born in 1976, and Nathan, born in 1985. In 1988 the family purchased Fontanelle, a stunning log cabin mansion in the Tennessee Hills, later recognized as one of the largest log cabins in the world, featuring 6 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, 5 fireplaces, 2 kitchens, and even a helicopter pad. The estate was eventually transformed into a full tourist destination, complete with a hotel, restaurant, live music venue, and indoor shooting range, a testament to the Mandrell family's entrepreneurial spirit. Faith, family, and loyalty defined the life Barbara built away from the cameras. But a single afternoon in September 1984 would shatter that carefully tended world. The devastating 1984 car accident. On September 11, 1984, Barbara was driving near her Nashville home with 2 of her children when a 19-year-old college student crossed the center line and struck her car head-on. The young man died instantly. Barbara survived, but barely. She suffered a broken femur, a shattered ankle, a damaged knee, and a severe concussion that caused temporary brain damage. The physical recovery was agonizing. But it was the psychological toll that proved the most disorienting. For a period following the crash, Barbara struggled with memory loss and disorientation so profound she referred to herself in the third person, as if the woman she had been was a stranger to her. It would take nearly 3 years to fully regain her clarity and sense of self. One small decision made moments before the crash became a defining part of her story. She had noticed children riding unbuckled in a nearby car and instructed her own kids to fasten their seatbelts and buckled her own. That act of caution is widely credited with saving their lives. In 1985, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration appointed her honorary chairman, launching an advocacy role she embraced with genuine conviction. The legal aftermath brought fresh pain. Tennessee law required Barbara and Ken to file a lawsuit against the family of the young man who had died, a legal formality designed to access insurance coverage for medical expenses. The public, not understanding the legal mechanics, reacted with outrage. Fans who had adored her turned hostile. Barbara, who was simultaneously fighting through physical therapy and cognitive recovery, now had to absorb public anger on top of everything else. Challenges of pressure and public scrutiny. Returning to performing after the accident, Barbara found a music landscape that had shifted beneath her feet. The new traditionalist movement had swept through country music during her recovery, and the polished pop country sound she had helped pioneer was now being dismissed by critics as too slick, too commercial, too far from country's roots. The woman who had once been celebrated for bridging genres now found herself caught between them. She kept recording. She kept touring. She released her autobiography, Get to the Heart, My Story, which became a New York Times bestseller and gave millions of fans a raw, honest window into the struggles behind the public smile. Readers connected to her willingness to speak plainly about trauma, recovery, and resilience. But something had quietly shifted inside her. The accident had rearranged her priorities in ways that no amount of chart success could undo. She had 3 children. She had a husband who had sacrificed everything to support her. She had survived something that could have killed all of them. And the question of what she was doing it all for had become impossible to ignore. Retirement and life away from the spotlight. In October 1997, at 48 years old, Barbara Mandrell gave her final performance on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry House. The goodbye was quiet and deliberate, no farewell tour, no dramatic announcement. She simply chose to stop. Her youngest son Nathan was still in high school, and she wanted to be present for that in a way that a touring musician cannot be. She sold her instruments, stepped away from the studio, and chose a life that most artists cannot even bring themselves to imagine. Gardening, painting, spending unhurried time with family and grandchildren, these became her world. She had spent decades giving everything to audiences. Now she was giving that energy back to the people closest to her. She has not sung publicly, except in church, since the day she walked off that Opry stage. In 2009, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, country music's highest honor, and the ceremony moved many in attendance to tears, with tributes from Reba McEntire and others who had watched her reshape the genre. In her acceptance speech, she paid tribute to her late father Irby, who had died just 2 months earlier, the man who had bet everything on her when she was just a teenager asking for her shot. Legacy and recent appearances. Even in retirement, the world has not been able to fully let Barbara Mandrell go, and perhaps she wouldn't want it to. In 2020, Grammy-winning producer Dave Aud remixed her 1978 classic Sleeping single in a double bed, bringing her voice to an entirely new generation of listeners. Barbara responded with genuine delight, thrilled that a song she had recorded nearly half a century earlier could still find new ears. Then came March 19, 2025. Barbara appeared at the Grand Ole Opry's 100th anniversary television concert, seated on a stool in a blue pantsuit as Kelsea Ballerini performed "I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool," Barbara's defining 1981 anthem. At 76 years old, she swayed along to the music, smiled, and soaked in a standing ovation from a crowd that had not forgotten a single thing she meant to them. Taste of Country. The event honored her as a certified trailblazer who broke barriers for female country artists and became one of the most influential entertainers of her generation. Yahoo! She did not sing a note that night. She didn't need to. The crowd stood for her anyway. There was no secret illness, no scandal, no slow fade into irrelevance. Barbara Mandrell walked away on her own terms, choosing a life that most artists cannot even imagine, one where the roar of the crowd was replaced by the quiet joy of simply being present for her family. Country Tang Daily. Earlier in 2024, she had released a digital gospel collection, Precious Memories, 20 Hymns and Gospel Classics, through the Gaither Music Group, a project that showcased her deep connection to faith and her roots in church music. CCM magazine, it was the kind of quiet, meaningful artistic statement that fit perfectly with the life she had chosen. Some people look at Barbara Mandrell's story and see sadness, a blazing star who burned out too soon, a voice silenced before its time. But perhaps the truth is something else entirely. She gave country music 2 of the most electrifying decades it has ever seen. She survived a crash that should have taken her life. She rebuilt herself from the inside out. And then, with clear eyes and a full heart, she chose something the spotlight could never give her: peace.